Good morning, Blazer Nation. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Wednesday to you. I am so excited to be tuning in on this Wednesday morning. So much has happened. Good morning, Shawn. How you doing, brother?
Good morning, brother. I see you have some new graphics introducing our Willionaire Wednesday, man.
I'm always playing with it.
It's so good to see your smiling face, and I just want to welcome folks from Blazing Nation, and thanking everyone getting up early and joining us for some Wednesday morning mission fuel.
Yes.
How you doing?
I am blessed. Um, you know, um, yesterday I woke up and the news is not new to me. I knew it was coming. Um, but I tell you, I was talking with several people yesterday that shared the same excitement I did, and it's when it is official and it feels like it's the first time, you're hearing it. And so yesterday it was announced that I was accepted as part of a new program LinkedIn's put together, a new initiative where they're pouring resources, money, and energy and time and people into creators. And they've launched LinkedIn's Creator Accelerator program. And of the thousands of people that have applied, they accepted 100 people. And yours truly was blessed to be amongst the first cohort, the inaugural class.
Congratulations.
Thank you, my brother. And I was excited, and then Shawn, I started to process the year that is 2021, coming back from 2020 into
Yes.
2021.
You can't just process one year. This is a bundled 2020 and 2021 will forever be a bundled live one, get two year
Yes,
to reflect.
yes. And so where I stepped into 2020 with my dad having his first stroke at Christmas 2019, 2020 being the year that it was. 2021 starts off January 10th, 3 a.m. My dad has another stroke, and I had just started back in the fall of last year a series on the podcast. I went 8 months, no podcast, no content. And I thought to myself, man, I don't want to have another 8-month period without content. And I remember being right here. And there, if I spin this camera around, you see that I've turned the other side of this room into a studio for my dad. And, following that second stroke, I'm here in the dark of this room, right? At arm's length reach, to him, because he was dizzy and he was having all of this stuff. And man, in the dark of that valley, I said, you know what? I'm gonna keep creating content. I'm gonna try out this live stream thing and see if it works. And jokingly said to you and Linda and Annette and several people, like, I'm gonna keep pushing this thing till it breaks. I'm gonna figure out LinkedIn. I'm gonna become Mr. LinkedIn.
Yep, you spoke it. You spoke it into existence, man. And I just want to say I'm proud of you. And you have demonstrated. Be careful what you declare because it just might appear, right? Nothing happens until it's spoken.
Yeah.
And not only did you, you spoke it into existence, but you worked it into existence, right? And I would often look at just your life and all that you were managing, caring for your ailing dad, 2 young children, beautiful wife, and full-time job, and the side hustle. And one of the things that you just said earlier, Stephen, is about content and creating content. And I think we already got all the content we need,
Mm,
right? And one of my mission mantras is, there's no cavalry coming to save the day in our
yeah.
communities. We are the iconic leaders that we have been waiting for, the
Curators.
curators of the change we're seeking to see. And folks forget about or don't often quote that last part, the curators of the change we're seeking to see, right?
Yes.
And that tells me that we have everything that we need
Mm-hmm.
in content, in connections, in community. And I will tell you that God has shared with me the beginning of this year and last year. He was like, son, don't ask me for nary another new idea.
Mm. Yeah.
Cultivate, build, and curate all that I have already have given you.
Mm.
And so if I didn't get another new idea,
Mm.
I already got enough. And so that's a liberating thing. And I think it's important for Blazing Nation to know, right? Look, this is December 1st,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we got 31 days left in 2021. But it is not too late to make 2021 your
Mm-hmm.
make or break year. Make history and break records, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got some big news on November 30th, right?
Yeah.
And so just wanted to encourage that. And if I may, I wanted just to bring in, how I like inviting folks into the room for our
Yeah.
Willing Wednesday. And part of my morning mission has been listening to a song that Brother David McGee from Detroit sent me a couple of months ago by Jonathan McReynolds and Molly Music. And I may have shared this earlier, but I just wanted just read a couple of lines, a few lines from this song called Adultin. Right?
Mm.
Somebody, I need to hear this every morning. Right? Um, but he starts off, and I'll promise I'm going to try not to break off into singing, right? I don't want folks unsubscribing and getting hate mail. But start off the song and it goes, I realized something when I woke up this morning. What I'm overwhelmed by is exactly what I wanted. Adulting ain't easy,
Mm.
even when you're happy. The work to maintain it can still make you crazy. And I'm not quite sure what it's all quite for, but maybe one day I'm going to finally learn that some things just ain't worth stressing about. I'm going to pray and not doubt that my God can work it out. Work it out. Yeah. I take care of what I can. I'll leave the rest in his hands.
Yes.
Trust that God can work it out. Work it out. Yeah. Whew, almost broke out into the song, but
Mm.
so yeah, man, just managing the blessings. And what I loved about your announcement yesterday was that so many in your community that you've cultivated was celebrating with you. And that's,
Mm.
folks in your corner, right? Your win is their win as well. And
And
Mr. Hart said something like that earlier this week, right? If you're rolling with me, if I'm eating, you're eating.
mm-hmm. And I shared with you guys in a text last night, and I did with my coworkers too at Sands yesterday, because that's an important piece, right? We don't achieve success independently, right? It's not a solo sport, in the words of Mindo, right? Success is not a solo sport,
That's right.
and there's so many people that helped to prop me up this year, right? In the darkest of that valley, there are many days that I don't feel like showing up. We've had that conversation many Wednesday mornings, right? I would rather, if I had to do this live, not show you my face in real time, right? But showing up wasn't just me. It was, many mornings you or Annette or my work team, propping me up, right? At Sands, where I can't get through the day alone. And they're like, hey, what can we lift for you? Right. So yeah, big ups to, the whole Blazing Nation fam and my family and, everybody that had a part in, this happening.
So,
This is
so
just
tell us, Stephen, what does that mean, right? So you are a part of the initial cohort of the LinkedIn Creator Accelerator membership
program. Yeah.
program.
Yeah.
Forget, program member. Um, you look good there, brother. Right, and so you took the acceptance picture more than a year in advance before accepting this. But tell us, what does this mean?
So it involves a grant. So there's some money behind
Oh,
helping
okay.
me to continue to develop the content that I'm creating. But I think even more importantly, listen, some of the people that are in this cohort are folks that could probably teach it. There are many people in this collective who I've looked to for inspiration, who have inspired me to do video on LinkedIn, and they're gonna be, you know, bumping elbows with me in his cohort. LinkedIn is also investing $25 million in
Mm,
developing creators.
mm.
And so there's a 10-week incubator beginning in January that I'll be a part of. And just looking forward to being able to learn how to get, better content out there with our Mission Fuel Mondays and everything else that we can do within the platform, which I'm really excited about. I really love LinkedIn. I think it's an amazing platform. I think it's a great place for us to be able to connect with our Blazer Nation community
Mhm.
and continue to build a community. And that's my heart, man. It's not for my benefit. You and I are all about the impact, right? And reaching more people with the power of the mission field that comes out of these Wednesdays and Mondays and Friday conversations that we have.
Now, the Willionaire Wednesday was probably the thing that took you over the top, right?
Without question.
They were in the room. Stephen A. Hart.
LinkedIn said as much in their response. They said, if you didn't have Shawn Dove, man.
I just love riding your coattails, brother, right? But listen, if we were to have a theme song in addition to the Blazer Trailblazer theme song, it would be Rob Bass. It Takes Two, right?
Yes.
And the what we want and are seeking in life, we cannot get there alone.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I just wanted to lift up, Stephen, about folks helping and holding you up, your vulnerability invited that, right? Sometimes, we're like, I got this. This has been a learning for me as I continue to adult, continuing to be vulnerable enough to say, I need help. I can't do this by myself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
particularly sometimes as Black men,
Mm-hmm.
Um, we feel like we got to prove something. And one of the most liberating words from Brother Melvin Miller, and I think I shared this with you, was, and he was talking to a room full of folks, but it pierced my heart. He said, you have nothing to prove,
Mm.
only gifts to share,
Mm.
right? And that's a freeing thing because
Mm,
as I write about in my book,
mm,
right, which we're going to
mm.
get to,
Pull it up one more time.
like advanced hard copy edition is here, iTunes America, and we're going to take a couple of minutes. I got a prayer, two poems, and a page I want to share from the book if we have some time this morning.
Absolutely.
Is that realizing that the last 3 decades, I've been on some performative, proven,
Mm,
seeking external, extrinsic validation.
yeah.
And sometimes God will deliver a valley, just like you were sharing,
Mm,
for you to have an opportunity to get closer to Him, to be in a silence, to pause, right? And while the pandemic has been horrific, I am grateful for the pregnant pause that the
yes.
pandemic has brought on to get still, get silent, stop rushing, and realizing, yeah, this is an inside job. And I've known that, right? But
Mm,
so for me, I am like really excited because in this season, as I've been sharing with you, we are ending like my second act and the third act of my leadership journey, my life journey. The curtain is going up. And we had a show a few weeks ago with Ron Walker and Rev Wyatt about
mm.
harvesting elder
Elder
grace.
Grace. Mhm.
In my younger days, I thought if someone had said, Shawn, what would you be doing at 59? And I
Mm.
would be like, I think I'd be shopping for my rocking chair, getting on cruise control if I was still around. And at 59, I feel like I'm just getting started with
Mm,
this next act. And so somebody needs to hear that because sometimes we get to middle age and we feel that God, I should be here. I should
mm.
be there comparing to others. So I am just excited for you. I'm excited for us and looking forward to elevating our Willionaire Wednesdays in 2022.
So you and I are gonna have some conversations over the next couple weeks. We decided we're gonna spend these next 3 Wednesdays and talk a good bit about the book. Um, but I want to do something a little bit different. We always joke that this is free flowing. And people probably still think we sometimes structure these conversations. They truly are free flowing.
No script.
No script. Shawn, I understand, where you're coming from. But we've kind of skirted over um, the campaign for Black Male Achievement, your background a bit. Um, and you're talking right now about the pause. I feel like you and I both entered around about the same point in time. Talk to me about where you're coming from leading into this pause. Explain to Blaze Nation what you'd achieved up to that point where we were at the pause, where we entered a pause.
Wow, wow. So we should have scripted that, right? Because that is such a reflective
It is.
question, right? And so I will say this: I will start off with the most important thing. Husband to my divine mate, right? And second, some folks get it right the first time, right? The second marriage, right? And I tell young brothers, trying or folks that are getting into marriage are thinking about it, find your wife, the mother of your children, and your mistress all in the same woman, right? Not three separate, right? And that's another a conversation. And I remember when I met Desiree in the mid 90s, June 1st, 1994. I remember around that time, all my homeboys were fathers, and some of them were like almost granddads. And I thought that I would never have children. I
Mm,
remember vividly sitting on my kitchen counter with some glory tears, crying, and thinking that I would never have any children. 26 years later, I'm sitting on the counter crying, these children, and so Nia, Maya, Cameron, and Caleb, right? So at the end of the day, that is the most important. When we talk about what I have done, what I have achieved, I did an exercise with my executive coach about 6 years ago where he had me write in my eulogy.
mm,
And in there, yes, launching one of the first beacon schools in New York City, in Harlem. Yes, leading the campaign for Black male achievement and helping to seed and catalyze a national movement for Black male achievement. That was in there. Yes, 32 years of recovery, right? And I've write about and I've told the story in the summer of 1989, being on the edge of a platform in a subway and thinking about jumping, right?
mm,
And thank God I did not do that, right? Because the last 32 years, so much has been done. And publishing and writing and speaking has always been part of my healing, a pathway to my salvation. And I know that, God has gifted me with the ability to lift up and heal others, so to speak. But we got to be catalysts of our own healing, right? And so along the journey, I published Harlem Overheard, a youth newspaper, right? Who young folks that are now older that I'm still in touch with, Saladin being one of them.
mm,
Publishing Proud Papa, a
mm,
paper for African American fathers, pocket magic books, and just being able. So building community, making connections. I have a sense, Stephen, of this ancestral obligation. Black boy born in 1962 in New York City, coming of age at a time in this country as a Black boy growing into a Black man where I've reaped so many benefits.
mm,
And just the continuation of building my community. And, if someone would have said to me, 33 years ago, Shawn, when we Google you in 33 years, when we Google Black male achievement in 33 years, your name is going to be come up.
mm.
I would have said, first, what the heck is Google? And second, shut up and pass the joint, right? And I have just been blessed with community. Got to lift up my single mom,
Mm,
Deanna,
mhm,
who demonstrated sacrifice, leveraged social capital before that was even a term. Mother from Jamaica.
mm,
And she used to always say to me, like, Shawn, I don't have to wonder what you're up to and what you're doing. When I come home and I see who you're hanging with,
mm,
basketball court on the corner, particularly when we lived on the Upper West Side, there was this basketball court on 85th Street. And she passed by there and she said, I'll tell you what you're doing by who you're hanging with, right?
mm,
So now, like, Mom, I'm hanging with Stephen A. Hart, right? And folks like that. So she is a proud, right? And so um, I don't know if that answers your question, but I've just been blessed to have amazing mentors, people that have believed in me before I believed in myself. And I will say one of the greatest thus far, the greatest compliment that I've received from an early reader of I to America on loving and leading black men and boys, Brother Ted Bunch,
Mm.
who is a former guest and
Yeah.
a co-founder of A Call to Men. He said to me, "This is reading this. This is reminding me of Claude Brown's Man Child in the Promised Land." And that touched me because in my early adolescence, uh, in this youth program called the Dome Project, being on their basketball team, the founder of the Dome and our basketball coach, John Simon, before we went to practice, we had to read out loud in a circle. He had us read books like Great Expectations by Charles Dickens, Man Child in the Promised Land by Claude Brown,
Mm.
and, we would read out loud, go to practice. After practice, we were on a corner smoking joints and drinking Old English, but we were talking about Sonny, the character. And
Mm.
it was then this whole love, or no, my mother started the love of literacy, right?
Mm.
And reading, but with books and creating and publishing, those seeds were planted way back then. And it was that book that really germinated and emanated this glow and passion in me. And when Ted said that to me, I was like, thank you.
Mm.
And yes, this is going to touch folks beyond my wildest dreams. I just believe that. But I know that there is someone that is going to read this book. And you talk about vulnerability, right? It's equal parts memoir, equal parts historical account of the campaign for Black male achievement. We follow the lives and get a glimpse and peek of two young men, Jamari in Detroit, Romero in Oakland, and it's also equal parts manifesto. Where do we go from here? Where we
Mm.
got 12 contributors of mini manifestos, and there is it's so much about we can be catalysts to our own healing. But
Mm.
come on, vulnerability, right? I write, about living with, and I got to lift up my co-author, Nick Childs, whom I've known
Yes.
for 35 years, who has also been a guest on
Yes.
Trailblazers podcast. We got to get Nick back on that. I write about, growing up as a young boy and growing into adolescence, being a bedwetter, right?
Mm.
And I write about a scene on 119th Street and Lenox Avenue, and I'm outside playing. And sometimes the adults that care for us and love us will do actions that they don't understand have a ripple effect and reverberate for years. I remember
Mm.
playing on Lenox Avenue between 119th Street and between 119th and 118th Street, and my godmother put my stained sheets out on the fire escape, and,
Mm.
and the kids would stop playing. They were pointing up and they were laughing, and I'm telling this story, and I know somewhere along this journey there's going to be a young boy or a grown man that is
Mm.
going to read that story and they are going to like, wow,
Mm.
Shawn too?
Mm.
And a sense of shame and embarrassment will ease and shed because vulnerability is our strength, right? And
Yeah.
we are not alone, right? And so there's so much, and I'm glad that we're spending the month of December, the next 3 Wednesdays, because I want to invite some of the mini manifesto contributors. But this is an offering, and I'm going to stop there. But before we jump off, I do want to share a prayer, 2 poems, and a page from the book.
Yes.
Folks can pre-order. So the hardcover is already on Amazon for pre-order.
Mhm.
You can go to my website, dovesores.com, to pre-order for a faster delivery and a bigger blessing for the Corporation for Black Male Achievement when it comes
Yes.
come to royalty. And I just have to say and thank folks that uh, we had almost 500 pre-orders. And
Mm,
so many
praise God.
folks, blind faith, believing in Nick and I, and just knowing that wow, this is going to be a blessing. But it wasn't finished when we thought it was going to be finished, right? So 90 days later,
Mhm.
we're just beginning to ship the pre-orders of hardcovers, and the paperback will be shipping in 10 days. So um, thank you all that have pre-ordered, and for your patience. I had a few emails and texts like, "Don't let me come see you." Like, what's up? What's up? So I don't know what
I
the question was, but that was an exquisite ramble that I had for you, my brother.
was not a ramble. It was good for us to. I've heard many parts of your background over the years, but I think it's important for people to understand. It wasn't just one thing, right? It wasn't just. Listen, Shawn, you've been planting seeds in people for decades, right? Um, and even though you had a big part to play in what became this movement that is Black Male Achievement, I think that work started long before that. Well, I don't think, I know, listening to you, that
Hmm.
the work started, long ago, long before that. And always find encouragement and inspiration in your story, Shawn, um, because there are many days I think back to when you and I met, and you saw in me something I couldn't see in myself yet, birthing this idea for Trailblazers, right? And you pushed me. And I've said this too, with Rumble. Rumble was an event where I came out and I was like, oh, Shawn isn't just pouring into me. Shawn's been pouring into hundreds of people like me all over the country to move, an idea, movement, an initiative forward that's going to help Black men and boys. And I'm so happy when you say, you thought of jumping. And in that moment, I thought of how many people would not be where they are today had you jumped, right? Had you made a decision to end your time here, right? Because of you, there's so many people who have impacted their communities. Like I've impacted Trailblazers community, right? There are many others who I'm in a digital sense, but you've touched so many people in communities all around the country. And I've had the benefit of seeing that firsthand. And so big ups, my brother. Always love to have these conversations and help pull out of you so others can see just how much you've actually done in your lifetime. And as you said, this isn't the end, right? Like you have so much ahead.
Yes, yes.
And so when you talk about the book touching and impacting, the book is in many ways what will continue long after we have left, right? But you've been impacting, you've been touching for decades, and I just want to big you up and acknowledge that, and acknowledge you and appreciate you, man, for what you've done leading up to this, so people have an understanding of where this book is coming from, right? And I think that's important, so thank you.
Whew, thank you, and being able like to finally flip through it, right? And
How does that feel?
it feels so surreal, and it feels purposeful. Um, you know, my mother told me a story a couple of Thanksgivings ago, and Jamaicans and West Indian, we don't be forthcoming, particularly the old school, with stories and whatnot. And I didn't find out until a couple of years ago from my mother that when I was born, I was the first baby she ever held
What?
in her life. Right, that's part of her story.
Wow.
And while I've had a number of publishing projects, this kind of feels like this is the first baby I've ever held. And I was just wanted to lift up a quote that begins the afterword from Maya Angelou. And Maya Angelou says, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you," right? Uh, that brings to mind another mission mantra during this process. And it's from the Gnostic Gospels of St. Thomas. And that says, if you bring forth what is inside of you, it will save you. If you don't bring forth what is inside of you, it will destroy you, right? And sometimes, a lot of times, we can't bring forth what's inside of us by ourselves. And Stephen, you were part of a midwife team that helped to birth this baby. You've heard me tell the story of the birth of my children and Caleb,
Hmm.
my last born child, being breached. And no, he was breached, born breached, and no matter how hard Desiree pushed, he
Hmm.
wasn't coming out.
Hmm.
They weren't ready for a C-section. 9 minutes after his twin brother Cameron was born, Caleb's vital signs were beginning to drop. And the doctor said, I have to go in and pull him out,
Hmm.
right? And pulled him out feet first. There's somebody listening that's going to hear this that has something inside of them that they've been trying to push out alone.
Hmm.
Their vital signs are beginning to drop. And this is when we got to get in spiritual, emotional stirrups. That's a hard image for men to do,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And say, Stephen, I got something inside of me and I need your help
To pull it on.
to pull it out, right?
Hmm.
And so that's what this is. This has been about, and everything that I've done in my life and have been blessed to do. I think I get um, undue or maybe too much credit for. And as we talk about I too am America, I got to lift up Repairing the Breach that
Hmm.
was published in 1996 and lift up the amazing leadership work of Dr. Bobby Austin, who in the Kellogg Foundation in the 90s created the Village Foundation. And that was at the time the largest philanthropic strategy for Black boys,
Hmm.
African American men and boys. And this is not new work, but it's always noun work, right? This is a continuum of centuries long. And this is just the offering and the assignment that I have in this season.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, Sean, I what what's your hope when you look at the book? So you've authored the book, and this is your baby. You talked a bit about what folks might look to gain from it, but you always say think 10 times bolder. You're 10 times bolder, right? What do you see um 10 years out from now by way of what this book will seed?
Wow. One of the things I've learned over the last 2 years, right? It's a lot easier and more comfortable asking others what would they do if they were 10 times bolder, right?
Right. Yeah.
But looking in the mirror and asking yourself that question, not so much. And so thank you for that question, Stephen. And birthing this book has literally metaphorically, cleared the creative birth canal
Mm,
for me. Right. I self-published under the Corporation for Black Male Achievement, and that's been a vision and a dream that's over a decade long. My plan for it was this, huge social enterprise, $100 million social enterprise that the campaign would morph into.
mm,
God's plan was that the Corporation for Black Male Achievement, no, this was going to be your LLC that you were going to launch and build in this very room that I am in now.
mm,
And so this is the first publishing product of the Corporation for Black Male Achievement, which is a publishing and a consulting enterprise that curates stories of loving, learning, and leading, specifically, but not exclusively, for young men between the ages of 18 and 25, right?
mm,
We're already working on the next project called the Graduation Gift. But iTunes America is a seed, right? It's a seed and a catalyst for creating a community, a platform. I see young men, adult men telling their I too am America stories,
mm,
talking to an organization now about what would a I too am America fellowship look like
okay.
in 2022 that
Mm,
has a curriculum and stories, right? In the book, we lift up, Langston Hughes' 1926 poem, right? I too. What does it mean to study what was happening at the Harlem Renaissance at that time, right?
mm,
We all have a story to tell. So the vision also is that, one of the mission mantras, Stephen, has been Brene Brown's quote that says, owning our story and loving ourselves through the process is the bravest thing that we'll ever do.
mm,
At its heart, I envision iTunes America on loving and leading Black men and boys, being a catalyst for
mm,
Black men and boys owning their stories, loving themselves through the process, and sharing it, right? And so the corporation being a platform. I envision also a graphic novel version of it, right? Um, and so this is, like I said, has cleared the birth canal for future endeavors, right? And let me just read my prayer for this, right? For the book you
yes,
asked
please.
me. And so when I got the first copy, I wrote a dedication in the book, right? And dedication and prayer is this: Dear God, thank you. That could be it. Yes, that two word worship and praise of and for your presence in my life. Thank you for it all. I pray that this book serves as a seed and a catalyst to blossom and cultivate a flourishing community of leaders, lovers, leapers, and writers who together will believe and blossom a reimagined America where Black men and boys feel love, safety, and belonging. This, God, is my offering. I pray that you will multiply and parlay it beyond my wildest dreams. Love, Shawn, right? So that's the prayer for the book. And I will tell you, since the advanced copies have come in, the probably most tender and powerful moment. There's been some celebratory gatherings, but sitting around the dining room table with my son Cameron,
Mm,
going over his job description as a sales and distribution associate.
Mm,
Um, Sitting down with him and going over the distribution process, putting labels on the first pre-orders, and just hearing his vision and his ideas and having that moment, right? And so, in so many ways, this ain't about the book,
mm,
right? This ain't. It is and it ain't, right? Um, God has always used writing and publishing and community building as a catalyst for my own healing, right?
mm.
My own family healing, and that's what we need, right?
Was Desiree's thing that uh, everything starts in the dove nest?
Yes, you could go all around the country and do black male achievement begins at home.
Mm,
And I think it's also important for, look, adulting ain't easy, parenting ain't easy. I may have been subconsciously slowing down the process of publishing, thinking that uh, there would be an epiphany or a change. And therapy has helped me to see that two things can be true,
mm, mm.
right?
Yeah.
Two things. You can be a national leader for a Black male achievement movement. Yes, that is true. And you can also be the father of adulting children that are struggling to find their way. That could be true as well,
Right.
right? And sometimes being able to rest and reside in the resonance of the dissonance of
Mm,
our lives. And I think it's really important that this is not about this is not a how-to book on loving and leading black men and boys. This is on loving and leading black men and boys, right? And I had to
mm.
look up folks like Jason Wilson,
Yes.
who has written a couple of books that has inspired me. Brother Shaka Sinclair, who has
Mm,
written a couple of books, and he's coming out with another one next month on letters to the sons of society. And so being around folks that are showing, like, you know what? Wow, if they can do it,
mm,
I can do it. Right. And
mm,
so that's the gift of this book. And I know in my heart of hearts that God's gonna blow my mind, right? And let me say this: during a part of at one point in this journey, I went to high school with Maria Rodell of her family. Founded Rodell Publishing, Rodell Press, and we wrote poetry together in high school. And she read an early version, and she was like, "Wow, I love this. Let me introduce you to a literary agent," because at that point I was like, "No, we're self-publishing," and I met with the literary agent. Um, they wanted to change the title. They wanted to say, "No, it can't be a memoir, a historical account, and a manifesto all in one. You have
mm,
to pick one." There was a time in my life when just having a literary agent and doing mainstream publishing was the validation enough. I would have given up
all
what I
right.
wanted. And a critical point was saying no to the literary agent
Mm,
and yes to me, right?
mm,
And there's so much backstory. Look, you've been on some of the Zooms with us crying during this process. And during this process, I transitioned from just wanting to tell my story to owning my story, and
mm.
that this was an offering. And if you, sure, there will be critics. Everybody ain't gonna love it. It ain't for you, right? I know that there is a community. There is someone. Uh, our offerings, just like Trailblazer, over the last 5 years, has been the answer to folks' prayers. Someone has listened to a Trailblazer podcast episode,
Yeah.
and we don't know which one, that saved their life,
Yeah.
right? Transformed their life.
Or transform generations' lives that we won't ever be around to witness.
The ripple, the
The ripple
ripple.
effect. And
You
so, Shawn, right there, and there's something that I want to speak to. Because I've been having this conversation with several authors who have said, this book is going to be the best. And they define best by what other people will, other algorithms will rank the book and say it's a bestseller. Right? And sometimes we, with Trailblazers, you just touched on Trailblazers. There are many days where I allow the download numbers to dictate how good my podcast is. For an author, you might allow New York Times or Wall Street Journal to dictate how good your book is. We shouldn't look at these external metrics and accolades to define how good a product we have created and birthed and given. And the offering that you just talked about isn't for Wall Street Journal.
That's right.
Isn't for New York Times. Isn't for Apple Podcasts to define its success. As you touched on, I've had, however many hundreds of thousands of downloads on the podcast. And there have been thousands of people viewing this live stream as we've evolved over the course of the year. But there's somebody, and we don't know, who listens to one episode. When I came back last year, I keep reflecting on being vulnerable, calling up Karen Allen and saying, hey, I need you to help me pull out what I can't push out in that first episode back after 8 months of an hiatus from the podcast. Help me tell what the last 8 months was like. And I was vulnerable to share this dark place I was in. More so, share that I opened up to therapy for the first time and what that was like. And within 1 hour of that episode going live, someone listened to that episode on the way to the airport that morning and crying sent me a direct message and said, I have been needing this not for me, for my wife and my kids. He experienced almost the exact same thing I did at almost the exact same time. His parent had passed. Now, if I didn't give that, if I wasn't vulnerable, if you weren't vulnerable in putting this content out there for somebody else's benefit, right? Their world probably doesn't change, or it changes not for the better, right? So let's, this is a message for both of us, but this is a message for many people this morning listening to this. Don't allow these external metrics to define success for you, right? You've birthed this book. You've already heard so many people who have spoken to you about the impact of this book. And this impact of this book, again, with a book, with a podcast, it has a shelf life.
That's right.
Right? A book, listen, your kids, my kids, they're going to be thumbing through these books years from now. Right? People are going to be thumbing through I2M America 100 years from now and deriving impact. So that's what, your baby means to me and to so many people. You have now transformed.
Baby.
You've transformed our baby, right? From just the impact that you can provide while you're here to something that can now go beyond your physical ability.
So we got to rebrand what we're calling these Wednesdays from a live stream to a love stream, right?
Yes.
This is a Wednesday morning love stream, and I just love you, brother, and just growing with you. And it is an offering, right? If all that the accolades of the bestseller and this and that, that's just icing on the cake. Um, this is about being purposeful, um, telling my story, but not only telling
Building
my story.
community,
What's
right?
that?
Building community.
And providing a platform for others to tell their story.
Yeah.
And so this is all. I remember being in college and at Wesleyan, and I was the editor of Expression Poetry magazine, and used to organize poetry readings in the Malcolm X House and the Marcus Garvey Lounge. And it provided me an opportunity and a platform to read my really bad poetry, get some wine and cheese. But what I loved most about that experience, I got to lift up Sonia Cole,
Mm.
right? We would have these poetry readings, and the community would come in. We would just have a great time. And I remember, Sonia's like from Brooklyn, very shy, uh, did not want to like get in front and read her poem. And part of me is like, I'm the guy that if you are at the water's edge, I push you in. And what I remember is Sonia, because of this community and platform that was created, reading her poem and her poetry from the first time,
Mm.
and folks being moved and literally seeing a light go on
Mm.
in the Marcus Garvey Lounge. And so that's what this is about, right? There is someone that has contributed a mini manifesto that
Mm.
by them being in this book, it's going to be a catalyst for them writing their own their own book, right? And we're going to get a couple of those folks on in the next couple of Wednesdays. So I am going to take, before you close,
Yeah. Close us off.
I did say I was going to do a prayer, 2 poems, and a page. I don't know if we have time for that, but what I will read is a poem, right? So, all right, it's short poems. We definitely have to start off with the 1926 poem by Langston Hughes, I Too. I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes. But I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America. And one of the things that we're going to be threading and talking about, Stephen, is America capable of feeling shame? Is America capable of owning its story and loving itself through that process, and it being the bravest thing that this nation could do, right? And we'll talk some more about that, because I had to look up, right, who is incapable of feeling shame. And
Mm.
it's a narcissistic, sociopathic personality, right? So we'll come back to that. But what I have to share also in the beginning of the introduction is a poem that I wrote in 1988. It was part of introduction of a book called Word that I published, that I just happen to have handy here. And Word was a combination basketball clinic writing workshop when we had young men in the Dome Project before they got on the court, right? I was just replicating stuff that worked for me. But it was the literacy program was all about basketball, writing about basketball, reading about basketball, and we published a book. And in that book, this 1988 poem that I wrote, and which is the seed and a foretelling, a 3 decades early foretelling of I Too America. And this is what I wrote. Whilst at poetry in motion, I stopped to look for a brother with ways to write a book. Arrange round me with a story to tell, a billion brothers who know all too well. About unwritten words that unwillingly die before bred and bound and able to fly. Why do my brothers' words wear weights of woe? My ears to the ground, I'm dying to know. We must give our words wings so they can sing a song for all brothers they will bring. The ability to dream, to fly, and to soar is to you, my brothers, these words are for. To give your words a life, you must sit and write your story with tales of what life is like. Do me a favor and set your words free, because I need to hear them. Do it for me. And that's a poem that I wrote in 1988. And this book is the pure personification of that poem, Poetry in Motion.
I love it. Brother Dove, let's jam, let's rock. Let's continue this in part 2 next Wednesday, my man.
Right. The best is yet to come, brother.
The best is yet to come.
Looking forward to accelerating with you in your accelerator program with LinkedIn, right? So congratulations.
Yes. Thank you. Listen, I'll share that if for those listening, I'm gonna drop a comment here so you guys can read about that post. But listen, this coming Friday, I'm really excited. I'm going to be having a conversation with Kylie Carr of the Asbury Group. I hope you guys will join us on Friday at 8 for that conversation. And I'm just looking forward to closing this week strong. We are going to go up till December 17th. It'll be our last live stream for the year. So we have a couple more weeks to go. Shawn and I will go through the next couple weeks as well. So,
and we got some great stuff in store for 2022, right? Not only going to accelerate, we're going to elevate. So
be ready.
Let's get strapped in, brother.
All right, guys. Have a blessed day, and we'll see you here again next Wednesday at 8.